Chapter 1. The Awakening. Zack's heart pounded as he sprinted through the neon-lit streets of Neo-Tokyo, a bustling metropolis on the edge of the known universe. The rain pelted his face, mingling with the sweat and grime of his exertions. Behind him, the sound of heavy footsteps and angry shouts grew louder. "Stop right there, human scum!" a gruff voice bellowed. Zack risked a glance over his shoulder and saw a group of Zorgon enforcers closing in, their advanced plasma weapons glinting menacingly in the night. He pushed himself harder, his lungs burning with each ragged breath. As he turned a corner, Zack found himself facing a dead end. The towering walls of the alleyway loomed over him, offering no escape. He spun around, his fists clenched, ready to face his pursuers. The Zorgons stepped into the alleyway, their reptilian features twisted in malicious grins. "End of the line, boy," the leader sneered, aiming his weapon at Zack's chest. Suddenly, a figure dropped from the rooftops, landing between Zack and the Zorgons. It was Riker, Zack's mentor, and a legendary fighter in the resistance against the alien oppressors. "Pick on someone your own size," Riker growled, his cybernetic arm whirring to life. The Zorgons opened fire, but Riker moved with impossible speed, deflecting the plasma bolts with his energy shield. Zack watched in awe as his mentor engaged the enforcers in a brutal hand-to-hand combat, his movements a blur of technique and raw power. In the chaos of the fight, Zack felt a strange sensation coursing through his body. Time seemed to slow down, and he could see the flow of energy around him. Without thinking, he thrust his hand forward, and a blast of pure energy erupted from his palm, sending the remaining Zorgons flying backwards. Riker dispatched the last enforcer and turned to Zack, his eyes widening in surprise. "I had a feeling you were special, kid," he said, "but I never imagined this." Zack stared at his hands, still glowing with residual energy. "What's happening to me, Riker?" The old warrior placed a hand on Zack's shoulder. "You've awakened, Zack. You have a power within you that the Zorgons fear, a power that could change the course of this war." As the weight of Riker's words sank in, Zack knew that his life would never be the same. He had always dreamed of making a difference, of fighting back against the Zorgon oppressors. Now, with this newfound power, he finally had a chance to do just that. Riker led Zack away from the alleyway, his voice low and urgent. "We need to get you somewhere safe, Zack. There's a lot you need to learn, and not much time to learn it. The Resistance needs you, and the fate of the galaxy may depend on what you do next." Zack nodded, a newfound determination burning in his heart. He had no idea what challenges lay ahead, but he knew that he would face them head-on. For the first time in his life, he had a purpose, a destiny, and he would stop at nothing to see it through. Chapter 2. The Resistance. Riker led Zack through a labyrinth of hidden passages and secret doors, deep into the heart of Neo-Tokyo's underground. As they descended further, the sounds of the city above faded away, replaced by the hum of machinery and the murmur of hushed voices. Finally, they emerged into a vast, dimly lit chamber. Zack's eyes widened as he took in the sight before him. Dozens of individuals from various species, all united in their fight against the Zorgons, bustled about the room. Some huddled over holographic maps, strategizing their next move, while others tinkered with advanced weaponry and equipment. "Welcome to the Resistance, kid," Riker said, a hint of pride in his voice. A tall, slender woman with silvery hair and piercing blue eyes approached them. "Riker, who's this?" she asked, her gaze fixed on Zack. "This is Zack, the one I've been telling you about," Riker replied. "He just awakened his powers." The woman's eyes widened. "Is it true? Could he be the key to ending this war?" Riker nodded. "I believe so, Arya. But he needs our help. He needs to learn to control his abilities and understand his role in all of this." Arya turned to Zack, her expression softening. "Welcome, Zack. I'm Arya, the leader of this resistance cell. We've been waiting for someone like you for a long time. Zack felt a surge of emotion, a mix of excitement, fear, and uncertainty. I don't even know what I'm capable of, he admitted. How can I be the key to ending the war? Arya placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. You have a power within you, Zack, a power that the Zorgons have tried to suppress in humans for generations. But you're different. You've awakened, and that means you have the potential to change everything. Riker stepped forward. We'll train you, Zack. We'll help you understand and control your abilities. But it won't be easy. The Zorgons will stop at nothing to capture or eliminate you now that they know what you are. Zack took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. I'm ready, he said. I'll do whatever it takes to fight back and free the galaxy from the Zorgons' tyranny. Arya smiled. That's the spirit. Welcome to the Resistance, Zack. Your journey begins now. As Zack looked around the room, taking in the determined faces of his new allies, he felt a sense of belonging wash over him. For the first time in his life, he was part of something bigger than himself. He had a purpose, a mission, and with the help of the Resistance, he would learn to harness his powers and take the fight to the Zorgons. The road ahead would be long and perilous, but Zack was ready to face whatever challenges lay in store. He had found his place in the universe, and he would stop at nothing to protect it. Chapter 3. The training begins. Zack's training began at dawn the next day. Riker led him to a secluded chamber deep within the Resistance headquarters, its walls lined with ancient artifacts and advanced training equipment. This is where you'll learn to control your powers, Riker explained. It won't be easy, but I have faith in you, kid. Zack nodded, his determination evident in his eyes. I'm ready, Riker. Let's do this. The first few days were grueling. Riker pushed Zack to his limits, testing his physical and mental endurance. They trained in hand-to-hand combat, marksmanship, and tactics, but the real challenge lay in harnessing Zack's awakened abilities. Your power comes from within, Riker instructed. You must learn to tap into it, to let it flow through you. Zack closed his eyes, focusing on the energy that thrummed beneath his skin. At first, it was like trying to grasp smoke, elusive and intangible. But as the days turned into weeks, he began to feel a change. The power grew stronger, more responsive to his will. During one particularly intense training session, Zack found himself facing off against a combat drone. The machine moved with blinding speed, its attacks relentless. Zack dodged and weaved, his muscles burning with exertion. But as the drone pressed its advantage, Zack felt something snap inside him. A surge of energy exploded from his body, engulfing the drone in a blinding flash of light. When the glare faded, the machine lay in a smoking heap on the floor, its circuits melted and fused. Riker stepped forward, a proud smile on his face. Well done, Zack. You're starting to understand your true potential. Zack stared at his hands, still crackling with residual energy. I can feel it, Riker. The power. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before. And you're just scratching the surface, Riker said. With time and training, you'll be able to do things you never thought possible. As the weeks turned into months, Zack's abilities grew exponentially. He learned to channel his energy into devastating attacks, to create shields that could withstand the most powerful weapons, and to sense the flow of energy in the world around him. But even as Zack grew stronger, he knew that the real test was yet to come. The Zorgons were out there, their grip on the galaxy tightening with each passing day. And if the Resistance was to have any hope of victory, Zack would need to be ready to face them head-on. One evening, as Zack sat meditating in his quarters, Arya entered, a look of urgency on her face. Zack, we need you. We've received word of a Zorgon attack on a nearby colony. They're holding civilians hostage, and we need to act fast. Zack rose to his feet, a sense of purpose filling his heart. I'm ready, Arya. Let's go save those people. As he followed Arya out of the room, Zack felt a sense of anticipation building inside him. He had trained hard, pushing himself to the brink of his limits. Now it was time to put his skills to the test. It was time to show the Zorgons what humanity was truly capable of. Chapter 4. The Colony. The Resistance ship streaked through the void of space, its engines thrumming with barely contained power. Zack sat in the co-pilot's seat, his eyes fixed on the view screen as they approached their destination. The colony was a small, unassuming outpost on the edge of Zorgon-controlled space. Its inhabitants were mostly farmers and miners, eking out a living on the harsh, unforgiving world. But now, they found themselves caught in the crosshairs of the Zorgon war machine. As the ship entered the colony's atmosphere, Zack could see the devastation below. Buildings lay in ruins, fires raged unchecked, and the streets were empty, save for the occasional Zorgon patrol. "Set us down on the outskirts," Arya instructed the pilot. "We'll make our way in on foot." The ship touched down in a cloud of dust, and the Resistance fighters quickly disembarked. Zack felt a thrill of anticipation as he checked his weapons and equipment. This was what he had trained for, the chance to make a real difference in the fight against the Zorgons. The team moved quickly and silently through the deserted streets, their senses on high alert for any sign of the enemy. Suddenly, a burst of plasma fire erupted from a nearby building, forcing them to take cover. "Zorgons!" Riker shouted, returning fire with his pulse rifle. Zack closed his eyes, reaching out with his senses. He could feel the flow of energy around him, the auras of his teammates, and the Zorgons alike. With a deep breath, he stepped out from behind cover, his hands crackling with power. The Zorgons barely had time to react before Zack unleashed a torrent of energy, blasting them off their feet and sending them flying. The Resistance fighters pressed their advantage, moving in to secure the area. "The hostages must be in the central compound," Arya said, consulting a holographic map. "We need to move fast." As they approached the compound, Zack could sense a powerful energy signature emanating from within. It was unlike anything he had ever felt before, ancient, primal, and incredibly strong. The Resistance fighters burst into the compound, weapons at the ready, but what they found inside left them speechless. In the center of the room, suspended in a glowing force field, was a pulsating, crystalline artifact. "By the stars," Riker breathed. "It can't be." "What is it?" Zack asked, unable to tear his eyes away from the mesmerizing object. "The Nexus Crystal," Arya explained, her voice hushed with reverence. "An ancient relic of immense power. If the Zorgons get their hands on it, they'll be unstoppable." Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the compound. A squad of elite Zorgon warriors, their armor gleaming in the dim light, entered the room, weapons trained on the Resistance fighters. "Surrender the crystal!" the Zorgon leader demanded, his voice dripping with malice. "Or watch your precious humans die." Zack stepped forward, his body thrumming with barely contained energy. "Not today," he said, his voice quiet but filled with determination. "Today, we fight back." With a roar of defiance, Zack unleashed his power, the Nexus Crystal amplifying his abilities to unimaginable levels. The Zorgons were swept away in a maelstrom of pure energy, their weapons and armor disintegrating under the onslaught. As the dust settled, the Resistance fighters stared in awe at the scene before them. The Zorgons lay defeated, and the Nexus Crystal hovered serenely in the air, its power now under Zack's control. "Incredible," Arya whispered. "With the crystal, we might actually have a chance of winning this war." Zack nodded, a sense of purpose filling his heart. "Then let's not waste any more time. We have a galaxy to save." Chapter 5. The Zorgon Stronghold. With the Nexus Crystal in their possession, the Resistance set their sights on the heart of the Zorgon Empire, the heavily fortified stronghold on the planet Zorgania Prime. It was a daunting task, but Zack knew that if they could strike a decisive blow against the Zorgons there, it could turn the tide of the war. As the Resistance fleet approached Zorgania Prime, Zack could sense the anticipation and fear emanating from his fellow fighters. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew that this was their best chance to end the Zorgon threat once and for all. Zack closed his eyes, reaching out with his senses to the Nexus crystal that now resided within him. He could feel its power coursing through his veins, amplifying his abilities to levels he had never dreamed possible. But he also sensed something else, a presence, ancient and wise, guiding him from within the crystal's depths. "Trust in yourself, Zack," the presence whispered. "You have the power to change the course of history." As the fleet entered Zorgania Prime's atmosphere, the Zorgon defenses sprang into action. Plasma cannons and fighter ships swarmed the Resistance vessels, threatening to overwhelm them with sheer numbers and firepower. But Zack was ready. With a deep breath, he stepped out onto the ship's exterior, the vacuum of space no longer a threat to him. His body glowed with the power of the Nexus crystal, and as he raised his hands, a wave of pure energy erupted from his palms. The Zorgon fighters were swept away like leaves in a hurricane, their shields and hulls shattering under the onslaught. Zack moved through the battle like a force of nature, his power growing with each passing moment. The Resistance fighters rallied behind him, their weapons blazing as they pushed towards the Zorgon stronghold. But as they approached the massive fortress, a figure emerged from its depths, a towering Zorgon warrior, clad in armor that pulsed with dark energy. "You dare to challenge the might of the Zorgon Empire?" the warrior bellowed, his voice shaking the very foundations of the stronghold. "You will pay for your insolence with your lives." Zack stepped forward, his eyes blazing with determination. "No," he said, his voice calm and steady. "Today, the Zorgon Empire falls. Today, the galaxy is free." With a roar of defiance, the Zorgon warrior charged, his massive warblade crackling with dark energy. But Zack was ready. He met the warrior's charge head-on, the power of the Nexus crystal surging through him like a supernova. The battle was fierce and brutal, the two combatants locked in a dance of death and destruction. But as the minutes ticked by, Zack could feel the Zorgon warrior's strength beginning to wane. With a final, desperate thrust, he drove his energy-wreathed fist through the warrior's chest, shattering his armor and sending him tumbling to the ground. As the Zorgon warrior lay dying, Zack knelt beside him, his eyes filled with a mix of pity and determination. "Your reign of terror is over," he said softly. "The galaxy will no longer suffer under your tyranny." With a final, shuddering breath, the Zorgon warrior passed into oblivion, and the stronghold fell silent. The Resistance fighters emerged from the depths of the fortress, their faces filled with awe and reverence. "You did it, Zack," Arya said, her voice filled with emotion. "You saved us all." But Zack knew that the battle was far from over. The Zorgon Empire was vast, and there would be many more challenges to come. But with the power of the Nexus Crystal and the strength of the Resistance at his side, he knew that they could face anything the universe threw at them. "This is only the beginning," Zack said, his voice filled with determination. "We have a lot of work to do. But together, we will build a galaxy that is free and just for all." And with that, the Resistance set out to bring hope and freedom to the stars, with Zack leading the way as the champion of Earth and the savior of the cosmos. Chapter 6. The Final Confrontation. News of the Resistance's victory at Zorgania Prime spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Oppressed species and downtrodden colonies rallied to their cause, swelling the ranks of the Resistance with each passing day. But the Zorgon Empire was far from defeated, and they were determined to crush this uprising once and for all. Zack knew that the final battle would be the most challenging yet. The Zorgons had retreated to their most heavily defended stronghold, a massive space station known as the Citadel. It was said to be impregnable, protected by the most advanced technology and the most elite warriors in the Zorgon army. But Zack had a plan. With the help of the Resistance's top scientists and engineers, he had discovered a way to harness the full power of the Nexus crystal. By channeling its energy through a network of ancient artifacts scattered throughout the galaxy, they could create a weapon capable of destroying the Citadel and ending the Zorgon threat forever. It was a risky gambit, but Zack knew it was their only chance. With a fleet of resistance ships at his back, he set out to gather the artifacts, braving treacherous alien landscapes and battling Zorgon forces at every turn. As they neared the final artifact, Zack could sense a dark presence looming on the horizon. It was the Zorgon Emperor himself, a being of immense power and malevolence who had ruled the galaxy with an iron fist for centuries. "You have come far, human," the Emperor sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "But you are no match for the might of the Zorgon Empire. Surrender now, and your death will be quick and painless." Zack stood tall, the Nexus crystal glowing brightly within his chest. "I will never surrender," he said, his voice unwavering. "I fight for the freedom of all species, and I will not rest until the galaxy is rid of your tyranny." With a roar of rage, the Emperor unleashed a torrent of dark energy, but Zack was ready. He met the attack head-on, the power of the Nexus crystal surging through him like a supernova. The battle was intense, the very fabric of space-time warping and twisting around them as they clashed. But Zack could feel the Emperor's power beginning to wane. With a final, desperate push, he channeled the full might of the Nexus crystal into a single, devastating blast. The Emperor's body disintegrated, his essence scattering to the cosmic winds. With the Emperor defeated, Zack and the Resistance launched their final assault on the Citadel. The ancient artifacts were brought together, their power combining with the Nexus crystal to create a weapon of unimaginable destructive force. The Citadel crumbled under the onslaught, its defenses shattering like glass. The Zorgon army, leaderless and demoralized, quickly surrendered, and the galaxy was finally free from their oppressive rule. In the aftermath of the battle, Zack stood amidst the ruins of the Citadel, his heart filled with a mix of triumph and sorrow. So many had given their lives to make this victory possible, and he knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. But as he looked out at the stars, he knew that the sacrifice had been worth it. The galaxy was free, and the Resistance had shown that even the most powerful empire could be brought to its knees by the courage and determination of those who fought for what was right. "This is only the beginning," Zack said, his voice filled with hope and purpose. "We have won a great victory today, but there is still much work to be done. Together, we will build a galaxy that is free and just for all." And with that, Zack and the Resistance set out to forge a new future, guided by the light of the Nexus crystal and the unwavering strength of the human spirit. The champions of Earth had saved the cosmos, and a new era of peace and prosperity was dawning across the stars.